Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. It is another Sunday and the sun is finally up. It's been cloudy for like years here. Finally, a sunny day and the birds are chirping and I'm excited to be alive. I hope you are too, and I'm excited for you to be here. So cozy up and let's get into today's video. Today I'm bringing you a sketch in Procreate on iPad. I really wanted to do a larger scale sketch, so I went by a 9 by 11 canvas in Procreate, and that's in inches. I don't really understand pixels or millimeters, so I went by inches based off paper that I have in my home. So that's, the American metric system. We love it. We stand for it, I guess. Anyway, so I wanted to do a sketch. I found this reference photo on Unsplash by Manuel Vega Torres. He's from Spanish Fork, Utah, and he had this really amazing portfolio of photographs, a couple that I saved. One in particular is of this older gentleman, and he's kind of looking down in his hands. I'm not sure if he's in the kitchen or like a family room, but he's standing there and you can really see the back of his head and the back of his back, but his face it's turned downward, and his eye and his nose and his mouth are almost black because of the shadows, and then it fades into the back of his head. And his hand at the bottom of the photograph is in a very weird position. I don't know if he's, about to use a tool, or if he's had his hand in something, so he's kind of holding it up so it doesn't touch anything or drip on anything. But there was something very moody and also kind of scary about the photograph. It could have been taken like maybe a sad photo, but to me it was like, what's he up to? Why he's so dark, and like what's he doing with his hands? Like, what is he doing? What's he up to? So I was intrigued. Like I was watching somebody about to do something they're not supposed to be doing. So, yep, that's what I went with. I started off the sketch by blocking in the basic form. I started with the head and then kind of went down to the chest, and then I added some of the back, and then I wanted to add the hand. I do move the hand later and do kind of adjust proportion based to the photo because I didn't want to interpret anything with this image. I wanted to be very kind of direct in what I was looking at, more of like a study versus a creation. I was very loose with this process. I found that this helps me deal with the intimidation of the white canvas as well as fear of getting started. There's something about, wanting to add all the details right away that can kind of get ahead of you. And then you end up with like a really detailed, face, but then you have to do the rest of the body and you kind of get burned out, or it just, I don't know. As you start doing the rest of it, it's like, shit, this face that I put so much time into, now I have to change it up because it doesn't do what it's supposed to do with the rest that I've done, and that sucks. And then I give up and then I don't want to do it anymore. So blocking in the basic form and the shapes before you add in details is going to help you know where things are. And then you can kind of analyze, is this where I want it? And then as you go along, you can move stuff around, at least digitally. That's a lot easier. I know traditionally you want to be very light-handed about it because you can still move things around, but it's obviously, it's more tedious. So after blocking in the basic form, I wanted to start adding details to kind of spell out where things were going to go. I was very loose about this. And I just laid the lines down. I didn't care if it was wobbly. I didn't care because I didn't have it streamlined. So I just, I went with wherever the pencil would go, and I just kind of laid the lines out. My biggest concern obviously was his shirt. His shirt it's not very wrinkly in the photograph, but it had a bunch of vertical and horizontal lines that hashtag at certain intervals throughout his entire shirt. And because of the folds, these lines end up becoming warped and bending and turning in different directions. So I was kind of worried about how to make that look. But I found by going in very loosely and just laying the lines down as I saw them, and just, being very curvaceous about it, not trying to be precise, it ended up looking a lot more natural, and I was really happy with the results. There weren't a lot of shadows on the shirt either, so I think that simplified the process. The shadows that are on there are actually shadows that I did interpret and kind of added myself, except for the one in the front, on the front of his arm. The ones in the back where there's kind of a little bit of shadow that you see later on, that was added by me in an attempt to kind of make it a little bit more dynamic and to add some depth. So yeah, the shirt was interesting, but it was fun. And you got to practice. You want you got to practice these things, guys, if you want to get good at it. So that's what I did. And you know what? I gave it a good 7 out of 10. I'm no Picasso, but Picasso was no Michelangelo. All right. And we're just who we are. And that's all that matters. I had fun. That's the whole point of this. The hand was kind of problematic in this. Because it was all the way at the bottom of the picture, and originally in the sketch I had it much higher up, so I moved it down, but it's very dark in the photograph, yet you can still see like the creases in his hands, and you can see the folds, the way his thumb is, the dimension of that, the way it's like coming at you, but it's like bent. It looks natural in the photograph, but I was messing around with it. I was having the hardest time, but I decided for the sake of a sketch, and since this is a moody picture and a moody sketch, I was just going to kind of black it out. And I play with it throughout this video. So what it is now is not what it ends up like at the end. But it basically just is full black at the end of this sketch. And I think it adds to like the scariness. I don't know. I didn't want it to be like terrifying. I don't think this guy is a serial killer, but I think he might be like a butcher, but he like enjoys it. You know what I mean? He's not a monster, but he's weird like that. The point of contention really in this entire sketch was the front of his face, because in the photo, it's a very stark darkness, but then on the back end of its face, he has full light exposure. But when I did that illustrative wise or sketch wise, it didn't look the way I wanted it to look. So the thing is I have this tendency to go in too seriously and try to do everything exactly the way it looks. And then I kind of forget to make it art. Some people are photocopiers. That's awesome. I've talked about this several times. I am not, and I don't want to be, but if you can make something look exactly the way it looks, that is a skill that is very hard to achieve. And that is so awesome. But the problem is I don't have that skill, and it's not a skill I really am trying to develop, but then my brain kind of goes to the thinking that that's the skill that I want. So I try to make it look like the picture. I can't actually do that, so it doesn't look good. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So I need to kind of understand that I need to simplify things. I'm a simplifier, if that's a word. I need to simplify what I'm looking at, but still make it impactful. How did I make the front of his face look scary or moody or disturbing without making it look terrifying, but also not making it look like it's just a shadow? I wanted to add emotion, not just a shadow. So that part of the face I mess around with throughout this entire thing, and I think it's the last thing that I touch at the very end. So it does get a little darker and moodier at the end of this video. So wait till the end if you want to see how it turns out, or you could just skip ahead. But, a real one's going to sit down and watch the process. But if you're busy, I understand. Thanks anyway for watching. So towards the end of the basic sketch process, where I feel like I've got the form good, the shirt is down, I've got, for the most part, the proportions okay, I feel good with the hand. I am now debating on whether or not I want to add an outline. I feel like if I add an outline, it'll add more of an illustrative look, which is typically more my style. I like that kind of comic book-esque, hashtags kind of look, but I didn't know if it would take away from, I guess, the smoothness of the sketch. So I did add outline, and that was a final decision that I did decide to stick with. The shirt, I think, is really amplified by the outline. I think it stands out more, the folds in the shirt, certain areas where I wanted, the bends to be more prevalent. I added some ink, and it does look a little bit better in my opinion. But the front of the face, I didn't like it. I thought it kind of blocked out each section a little too much, because if I was going to ink, I was going to have to ink in his cheek, and then that kind of separates the front of his cheek with where his nose is. And in the photo, that is very dark and it's kind of hard to tell, even though you can see it. a part of the mystery is like, where is his face? It's so shadowed out. It's so dark and kind of disturbing that I can't really tell where his eye is. I can't see any light in his eye. There's no little white dot that's glistening. It's just really dark. So I didn't like that. So ultimately I decided to erase the outline on the front of his face, and then I lowered the opacity of my eraser and kind of faded the outline on his forehead to the top of his head, so it just kind of shows up and then goes throughout the rest of the image. And I thought that still gave the face what it needed, but also emphasized kind of the hair and his ear, as well as the shirt and the folds in the shirt, that made everything stand out a little bit more. I also did not ink his hand because I felt like it was dark enough already that it didn't need any extra definition. For the background, I was kind of on the fence about exactly what I wanted. I didn't want a white canvas because it was just too bright in contrast to him, and he looked more like a sticker instead of a mood, which was more what I was trying to create. So I originally was going to do toned paper on more of the yellow end of the spectrum, but then later on I decided to go more towards the gray end because I felt like the yellow, just like the white, was too much contrast for the dark part of his face and his hand, that it looked a little too flashy. I wanted him to kind of stand out and not clash with the background. So I went with gray at the end, and that made it a lot more seamless, I felt like. But yeah, these are the perks of doing digital art. You can change the background like that. You can do all kinds of interesting little tweaks and whatnot to kind of change the way it looks, and you can just take any kind of risk because you can hit the undo button and bada bing, bada boom. You got before the mistake happened. I love that. But yeah, I tried a lot of different stuff in this, and, played with colors, played with, proportions, played with how the fabric works and all of that. I think overall this was a really cool, sketch experiment, and I wasn't expecting to do anything like this today. It just kind of came to me, and because originally, as I said, I was going to do a Copic illustration. It was going to look totally different, but I was like, why not do Procreate and do more of a sketchbook-esque style and make it more different? Because one thing's for sure about this channel, I'm not consistent. So I like to switch it up, change it up, do it up. And I had a really fun time with this sketch, and I'm happy with how it turned out. So I hope that you like it. Thank you guys so much for coming in once again and watching the video. If you made it all the way to the end, yay. That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. I'm happy for me as well, because that means it was entertaining enough for you to make it that far. So the pros of this drawing: I like the mood, I like the sketchy vibe, I took out my sketchbook and made a random choice. It feels good. I like the way the shirt turned out. I like the moodiness of his face and his hand. I think I achieved the mystery that I was trying to create. Also, I am happy that I went on a larger scale canvas. I usually don't attempt to do larger scale drawings because they're kind of intimidating, but I'm happy that I tried to do something out of my comfort zone, and it worked out just fine. What are some cons? I could have worked more on adding, I know I said I wanted to simplify, but I could have worked on adding more definition to the wrinkles in his skin. His skin and his face and his head kind of look flat, but that wasn't the focal point of this image, so I'm not going to stress too much on it. But yeah, that would be my critique. But yeah, as I said before, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you had a good time hanging out with me at Cozy Tea. I always appreciate your company, so thank you so much. If you like this video, go on and give it a big thumbs up. If you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button and stick around for a while, why don't ya? And hang out with us in this cozy little corner of the internet, where you're welcome to be you and nothing more, nothing less. One more thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Stay beautiful, stay true, stay you, and above all else, stay cozy. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Love you. Peace.